Hi folks, and welcome back once again to Solo Board Gaming presents Navajo Wars, and this is part 2 of our playthrough tutorial. In part 1 we set the whole thing up, did a bit of explanation of why things work like they do, and we carried out turn 1 card. And there's the discarded card over there. And we drew our second card to start the next turn, and that's just here on the board, and it's time to take our first close look at the card to see what we've drawn, and it's a ceremony card. Let's take a closer look. Okay, well, I hope you can see this nice and clearly. So we're carrying out a ceremony hoping that we can produce good things. And like all other cards, we literally carry out each instruction word for word. So when drawn, conduct the following steps. Now, step 1, we conduct an enemy way effect. An enemy way is down here on all ceremony cards in player's hand, and then reset the cubes. So if we have ceremony cards already in our hand that we've kept from previous card draws, we have to conduct the enemy way effect. Let's have a look at the enemy way effect, which is down here. This is things going very wrong. Remove from play the rightmost elder from the elder display, and then the player can discard the card. And if we do, we remove 1 man from passage of time, if possible. So, this is the first ceremony card we've drawn in this game. So we don't have to conduct enemy way, because we don't have a ceremony card already in our hand that we've kept from a previous round. If we had, that's when we would conduct the enemy way effect on all ceremony cards in our hand. So, if we took this card into our hand and we drew a second ceremony card later, that's when we would have to conduct the enemy way here if we were holding the card in our hand. And that would be quite a deadly enemy way effect, because it would get rid of our most experienced elder, the rightmost elder, and if we had a man counter in the passage of time box, that would be removed as well. So it signifies our families dying off. So if we take the card in our hand, it is a risk. So, no card in hand, we don't have to conduct step 1 right now. Step 2, discard the card. Okay, put it on the discard pile and ignore it. Or do step 3. And if we do step 3, we have to keep the card in our hand, and that's when that could become a danger if we draw another ceremony card. So I hope that's pretty clear. So step 3, we can add 1 man population counter to the passage of time box and add this card to our hand. So this is the good part of the card. Take it in our hand and we get a man counter, there look, to put in our passage of time box. And we also can use the card as a die roll of 6 whenever we need that die roll. We can discard the card as a 6 result on a die roll. So the benefits are huge, but also if we get caught out, the negative effects are huge. I'm going to take the card in hand. Yeah, I'm going to take the card in hand. I'm going to take a man counter from the out of play box. Okay, there we go. And I'm going to place it in the passage of time box along with the child counter that we picked up on our raid. Remember, we raided New Mexico and picked up slaves, and that's where we got the child counter. We've now added a man counter, and we can start hopefully to expand our population. But it means I have to take this card into my hand, and I'm taking that risk if we draw another ceremony card. So I also want to get rid of it as soon as I can. Worth some thought. I'll take it in hand. And now we draw again. Drawing from the top of the deck. And let's hope it's not a ceremony card. It's not. It's an operations card. Let's see what this one holds for us. Thank goodness for that. Okay, not 100% sure if you can see it that way very clearly. I wonder if that's a little bit better just there. Okay. So again, we follow top to bottom. We've got an operations segment. I'm going to look at the major event segment to see what I've got coming up, just in case it affects what I choose to do here in operations. It's Pueblo War in the West, which can be nasty, but I'll be okay this turn, and I'll explain that when we get to it. So I'm going back to the operations segment. We could preempt it and take the initiative and go first, but we'd have to pay 2 action points. We don't have any action points. We started the game with 3, used them all in the first turn to preempt, none left. So if we did so, the enemy would collect 2 action points, and we're not doing it, as we say. Otherwise, the enemy collects 3 action points. Okay. Okay, enemy. Enemy collects 3 action points. In fact, we know the enemy will add an action point because of that 1 red subjugation cube in the New Mexico box. So that's 4 action points. And luckily, we have 3 cubes still in the raided box. So they -3, and again, it only leaves them with 1 action point. The next thing we need to do is to not forget to roll those 2 dice to see if any of their tokens flip or swap. Oh, 5 and 6. I think we rolled 5 last time as well, didn't we? So we look over here, 5 and 6. 5 is here, so we flip that from build and subvert to subvert. And it wants us to flip 6, but we won't flip it because it has a red stripe on it. Okay? There's a lot of subjugation and subversion coming on. Anyhow, having done that, what can the AI do with their 1 action point? Nothing. Look, the top one would take 3 action points. Build is 3 action points. If subvert was at the top, see, they have to pay between 1 and 3 action points for that one. They could take an action, but it's not, so they can't. I hope you can see now that big tip number 1 is grab the initiative on the first turn and raid as much as you can. Hopefully disrupting the enemy enough that they don't get to take actions. So now it's our turn. And what shall we do? Well, this is it, you see, this is a decision space you're in. You're constantly making decisions in this game, and every decision you make has an important impact on the game. For instance, I would love to quickly harvest that corn before any enemy raids come along and burn my crops. So I would need to take action. But instead, you know what? I think we're going to do planning. Let's do planning. We'll carry out a planning operation. Now, once again, we return to our trusty player aid, and the planning summary of your planning operation is listed in the yellow box. So you just follow each step and it's full of decisions which you may want to make or you may not want to make, depending on your situation. So let's go through it step by step. First of all, we place a population counter matching what's on the card, and let's have a look on the card. Remind ourselves, there it is. It's a man, it's a male figure. So we place a male figure from out of play into passage of time. Like so. Now we're beginning to look good. Our kindred are beginning to grow. Now, we collect action points for each of our elders that are on the display. So our action points go from 0 to 3. Let's reach over here. 1, 2, 3. Just there. At least now we have some action points back. The next thing, we move each elder along by 1 space along the elder display track. And in this fashion, they become more capable, but also at the same time, they do get older and more vulnerable to dying off. Now, each elder on the display can carry out 1 action, but only if we can roll a die that does not fall within their numerical value. The numerical value here is 1, so the die mustn't equal that value. The numerical value here is 1 to 2, and here it's 1 to 2. So for their action to be successful, you must roll a die higher than these values. Easy peasy. Now, the first guy here. If our military is less than our culture points, and it is because our culture is way up at 9, our military is down at 5, we can add a military point. And remember, I do want to bump those military points up. So it's for a small reason. And if we had raids coming up, I wouldn't do it. But I'm going to use my ceremony card, which guarantees me a 6 die roll. So guarantees me success for that elder carrying out his action. And I'm going to discard this ceremony card. Get it out of my hand, because in my opinion, at this stage of the game, there's too much chance of me drawing another ceremony card quite quickly, and I don't want to do that. So that's gone. I don't have to worry about it, but his role has been therefore successful. So we're going to add 1 military point. We now have 6 military points over there on the track. Good. Second guy, what's he going to do? We could do the same thing. He could try and add another military point. But do I want that? Or we could add ferocity or take ferocity away from a family, adjust its value. Not so important right now. Or an elder can add another action point. Let's try that. This elder is going to add another action point if he can roll. So let's try that. Roll, roll, roll. And what we're doing, we need to beat 2, if you like. Okay, that's what we need to do. And we got a 5. We've beaten it. So we've now got 4 action points. We're doing okay. Does this guy want to do the same thing? Add an action point? Or should we go back to military yet again? I think we'll go back to military yet again. Okay. Let's roll the die. We've just got to beat 1. And we've got a 3. Another military point. We now have 7 military points. A much happier state of affairs. Now, each family with a man can spend an action point to conduct tribal warfare or tribal diplomacy. I don't want to do that right now. If we do, I'll explain it later. Or, so long as we have enough culture points, and we certainly do, greater than 0, each family with a woman may spend 1 action point to place 1 trade good counter into the resource box. I think we'll do that. Yes. Now, all three families have a woman in their family box, so we could do it 3 times, but instead we'll do it just once, shall we? Should we do it just once? We'll do it twice. We'll do it twice. We'll go 1, 2, spend 2 action points. We're now down to 2 action points. Spend 2 action points to add 2 trade goods. There they are. 2 trade goods to our resources box, and that's over here with those horses. Excellent. All we have to do now is reset the cubes. Resetting the cubes is part of every planning action, and we reset it like so. This one from the recovery box goes into the pool, that is, back into the bag. Raided cubes go into the recovery box, and you can see what that's done. So there's something detrimental to almost everything you do. We now don't have that advantage of deleting enemy action points on their turn any longer. Not at the moment anyway. So that's how we reset the cubes, from recovery to bag, from raided to recovery. And here's those trade goods, by the way, those 2 trade goods in the resource box, along with those 2 lots of horses. That's our move finished. Now, we move on to the major event segment. And as I mentioned before, we don't have to be too concerned about this particular one because of where our families are located. And it is Pueblo War in the west. Now, major event Pueblo War in the west, you roll a die, and if it's a 1 to 4, it's a war in the Zuni Mountains. 4 chances out of 6 that the war is here. On a 5 or 6, the Pueblo War is here in Hopi land. That's why I didn't move my family out of Canyon de Chelly on the last turn, because if our family was in any of these 2 territories, whichever territory is picked for the war, that family is destroyed, and the whole family would end up in the passage of time box. Okay, to potentially be renewed later, but our family for now has disappeared because of the war in their territory. And its counter would come off the board. Now, I happen to know that there are a couple of these cards in the entire deck, so we may come across it again, but for now, at least one of them is gone, thank goodness. So now, on another turn, I would consider it safer to move my family into the Zuni Mountains and to be able to claim the victory points, so long as I'm still there during a victory check. But for now, no families were in these territories. We're clear. So we move on to the minor event segment, and now we have to roll to see which instructions swap places, and that means enemy instructions. Let's have a look. There's the enemy AI engine, the machine. So we roll 1 die. Let's go. 1 die. And it's a 2. Which means space number 2, here it is, they swap places. Oh! Okay. Subvert goes over to standby, and raid comes over to active. Okay, fair enough. We'll take that as it comes, and now we can discard this card. We've finished 3 cards so far. And just as I am discarding it, I realised I did forget something on the major event segment, and that was if there are no families in any of the territories, we -1 culture. Forgot that, I'm sorry, but once again, we caught it. -1 culture, we're down to 8. And basically, that's because we hadn't spread out into those territories, which would have expanded our culture. You see? We've been containing ourselves. Hopefully, we'll correct that. We'll draw the next card. And it's another operations card. Player may preempt for 3 action points. We don't have 3, we only have 2. Otherwise, the enemy goes first and has 4 action points. Now we'll probably see some enemy action. Okay, enemy turn, enemy goes first. They have, according to the card, 4 action points. Now, they saved 1 action point because they couldn't spend it from last turn. So they have 5 action points. The enemy do save unspent action points. Okay? So they have 5. They add 1 for the red cube. They have a total of 6 action points. First thing we'll do is roll to see if any counters flip, or whichever counters flip, sorry. 2 die. 3 and 1. Wow. Okay, 3 and 1. So 1 is here. That flips from build to what? Colonize. And 3 flips from expand. That's going back again, isn't it now? Yeah, to raid. Now look, we have 2 raids coming up. Raid 5 and a raid 3. But that's for later. The top token is colonize, and it'll cost 3 action points, so they'll go from 6 down to 3. Now with colonize, if there are no cubes in the raided cubes box, we treat it instead as expand, an expand instruction. But once you go down and look on the summary as to what expand means, if you have outposts on the map already and the enemy doesn't, the outpost would move 1 further up the valley. But it doesn't. So therefore, finally, we treat it as a build action. So we take our mission marker, because the Spanish will be building a mission. Does that have it? Yeah, that's nice. I like those. They're nice markers. This mission, and they'll build the mission in the lowest value territory. And by value I mean, have a look at the die. Each territory has a die. That is number 1. That is 2. This is 3. So in the number 1, which is the lowest value, they would build a mission in the first area. Okay, we're beginning to populate the map. There's a mission there now. They move the counter over to the right in the inactive column. They used 3 points. They have 3 left. So they cannot undertake the next counter, which is raid, because they would need 5 points. But they do save those 3 points to next time, making them more powerful, more able. But for now, the counters move up. There, I see we've got 2 raid counters at the top. This one moves down. And the engine keeps going. End of the enemy turn. And now it's our turn. So again, do we 1. Take actions, 2. Do a planning action, or 3. Do a passage of time action? Still don't think we're quite ready for passage of time, because I don't think we have enough food. I'm a bit worried about that. And not quite enough population, kindred in the passage of time box to warrant it. Not just yet, but we are close. So we'll take action. Again, we have 3 elders so we can carry out 3 family action, or actions with 3 families. Technically actually 4 families, because a canyon, or a family even, in Canyon de Chelly would give us an additional family action. But all 3 families can carry out an action. Now, what should we do? Actually, the first thing I'm going to do, I know I've got raids coming up, etc., is I'm going to harvest this corn. So I'm going to have family A use their 6 movement points first. Now, to harvest the corn, exactly like planting, takes 4 movement points. Because it takes that amount of time to harvest it, plus 1 point for the area that we're in. We're in area 1. Notice, therefore, that because we have to pay the area value, planting and harvesting is tougher the further we go into these territories in more difficult terrain. But for now, a total of 5 to harvest that corn. It's harvested. Okay, it's better than nothing. But this particular harvest is worth only 1 food resource. But better than nothing. It goes in the resource box for use by our families. A has only 1 point left, can't be saved, and not worth using. Family B has 6 points and is going to raid New Mexico by paying 2 movement points, leaving 4. So let's do that raid. Let's draw the bag. What colour are we going to get this time? It's white, and white is sheep. We have sheep, which is excellent. That's more food. That was a good raid. These are the reasons why we raid. And the white cube, of course, goes in the raided cube box. So at least we know we're going to take a point off of those darn Spanish when it's their next turn. We take a sheep canter. There they are. A good food resource, and that's where it goes, into the resource box down here with the horses, the trade goods and the corn. We're building up some good resources for the future. We used 2 points. Shall we do it again? No. I tell you what we're going to do. I'm going to give family B horses, place it on their family box down here. So family B now has horses. Okay, and we can do that at any time. They can collect those horses. They have 4 movement points. And now we're looking at the lower values in parentheses here. Easier to move through the territory along the valley. So we're going to pay 1, 2, 3 movement points. Now without those horses, that would have taken 7, look, 7 movement points. But we did it. And that's family B completed. Family C, with their 6 movement points, they're going to move from Canyon de Chelly, 1 plus 3, 4 points, into the Zuni Mountains. And that's our turn finished. We're going to move straight on to the major event segment. I love this one. And it's come just at the right time. I don't know if that's very well focused. And it says firearms acquired. If there's a firearms counter in the outer play box, place it into the resources box. So we take the firearms, and there is only 1 counter, from the outer play area and place it to be used as a resource at any time by the families. Place it into the resource box. Great card. And finally, we roll to see which area suffers drought. Okay, it had to come at some point. Take a die. Roll the die. It's a 6. I'm okay with that. That's fine. Area 6 suffers drought. I'm going to take a drought counter. There it is, and place it in area 6, that's Hopi land. Oh, no. Area 6 is Black Mesa. There it is. There's the drought counter in the first box of area 6. And that's our turn finished. And now it's the discard phase. So for that, please join me next time when we'll draw our next card. The enemy is going to have quite a few action points to use. There's certainly at least one enemy raid coming up, possibly even 2. You're finally going to see some battle. And let's hope that we've put our Diné, our people, into a half-decent position anyway to absorb the onslaught. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.